All right, welcome one and all to the Scorched Earth Political Podcast. I'm your host, John, and if you could kindly hit that like and subscribe button, and happy Monday morning. I hope your Mother's Day weekend was a good one. I hope it was a blessed one. I hope you were able to spend times with your loved ones, and I hope it was a joyous weekend. They go far too quick and they come far too infrequently. Those moments you get to share with loved ones, cherish them and treasure them. They don't last forever, that's for sure. Here at the Scorched Earth, we we welcome sinner and saint, friend and foe. We've had a pretty good week with the trolls. They seem to really like to engage me, especially on certain subjects. But you know what? It's all good. What we're trying to do here, what we're trying to accomplish is to make more of an unabridged, honest look at what's going on in the geopolitical and the political world itself, and almost any facet of life, right? And I do think that that's one of the issues with legacy media, is because they are so entrenched with the corporate world and with quote-unquote currying favor with guests and things like that. They don't ask the hard questions. They don't ask what's really going on. And I know it's easy, let's just pile on this guy or pile on that guy and let's just get the partisan divide. And look, there is some things that I actually do agree with, but for the most part, I'm incredibly disgusted by the person he is and what he represents and what it makes in America. But you know what? Here we are, taking no prisoners, telling no lies. Like I said, if you could, hit that like and subscribe button, hit the notifications, leave a comment, tell me what you really think, and away we go. Let's burn it all down here on Scorched Earth. And, Sunday was just a terrible day, I think. It was announced that Trump is now going to receive a $450 million jet from the state of Qatar. That's where they had the last World Cup, and the royal family that governs it. And he actually toured this plane. They brought it over to West Palm Beach in February. Him and his staff toured it. He gushed about it, how opulent it looked, how great it looked, whatever. And now we're finding, hey, okay, now, quote unquote, the United States, to replace Air Force One, which, let's be honest, is 35 years old. It's back from the George W. Bush days. It's okay. It's an antiquated plane. It isn't, a G7. It isn't something like that. But at the end of the day, it is an incredibly complex military and aviational thing. A work of art almost, really. All the things that go into it. And Trump has been very aggravated for the last couple of years because Boeing, which said they were going to have the new Air Force Ones out of a $4 billion contract, basically. They were going to be done in 2022, and they still aren't done. They're talking about they're going to be done in 2027. So now Trump has basically curried favor, asked for a bribe. Let's call it what it is. It's a straight out bribe. He's going to Qatar this week. I wonder if they're going to extract anything out of this magnanimous gift. Yeah. Hold your breath on that one, right? So the thing is, it's been announced that after it gets put into service as Air Force One, that then it is going to be transferred to the Trump Presidential Library for his personal use after he leaves office. Well, listen to this. Estimates from the Defense Department are it will take 3 to 5 years to retrofit the plane. Basically, they have to take it down to the core to make sure there's no surveillance things or homing options or anything that can imperil the life of the president and his staff, right? All right, makes sense. That's why it's taking Boeing so long. This is basically the aviation, the communication, and the command post center for the United States, right? When it's in air. Honestly, if there's a threat on Washington, they load him in Air Force One, and he basically can run the country from that. Well, you can understand where there might be a lot of problems. And look, I don't have any sympathy for Boeing. If you've listened here, I've skewered them plenty of times, and they've actually, in their $4 billion contract to provide those two Air Force Ones, have actually went $2.5 billion in the hole because they're trying to deal with logistical issues that come up every day. Well, Trump is just the grift. This is basically a $450 million goddamn bribe. That's all it is. Now, what is Qatar going to get out of it? I don't know. But I hearken back to the quote from the great philosopher Louis Seneca when he said, "For greed, all is too little." And that so applies to Trump and his cronies. We've seen the crypto scam where basically he has a meme coin that's basically worthless. It's nothing. And 75% of the money that goes into quote unquote his coin goes into his pocket for an administration fee. It is literally the greatest grift ever until K-Tard gave him $450 million worth of airplane for his personal use, for his presidential library, which, you know, let's see it. At the end of the day, all these lawsuits he's had, all these donations of going to the Trump presidential library, which he hasn't even announced where it's going to be, what it's going to do, anything like that. And I can't even believe that the Republicans in Congress are going to let this happen. I mean, we've always had grift in society. You know, you got the Mitch McConnells, you got the Nancy Pelosi's. You know, they took $150,000 salary and they made $25 million in their lifetime. Okay, yeah, there's grift. I'm not going to argue that. But the level of grift now is literally something even Bernie Madoff would go, what the F? This is nuts. This is just nuts on nuts. And, you know, technically, I guess they're allowed to do it. I guess we're going to find out. Maybe it goes to the Supreme Court. Maybe Congress gets a spine and actually enforces some of their anti-corruptions. The emoluments clause where a president can't personally enrich himself from the office. Right. Yeah. How is this not treason either? But, you know, I think about one way we could get around this, and maybe we could just donate a blimp to Trump and as his new aviation command center, because believe me, that mother effer, he's got enough hot air to keep it afloat. Let's just talk what it is, right? All right, let's move on, see what else is going on in the news. It seems like we have a new Surgeon General. Oh my God. We got a nominee from Trump, which is always just lovely, unlovely. It seems like her name is Casey Means, and she went to Stanford Medical School, which on the surface sounds great. Oh my God. Actually, somebody might be qualified for one of the posts in the Trump administration. Well, don't get your hopes up too high there, folks, on the podcast. You're going to be hurt. Seems like she didn't actually finish her residency in the state of Oregon, so she's not officially a doctor. She is going to be the Surgeon General of the United States. Now, really, think about that. Okay, we have Robert Kennedy over there running Health and Human Services. Okay, but it is not an official medical position. The Surgeon General is the chief medical officer in the United States. And we have somebody who can't even give you a prescription for 800 milligram Motrin. You know, she's like, she might as well be working at the effing Clinique counter at Macy's. I mean, really, that's what her skill. Well, she went into the wellness world. Yeah, she sure did, right? So she made a book out 2 years ago. It was called Good Energy. And in this book, it promises to prevent and reverse conditions from dementia and certain blood flow issues with quizzes and recipes. Yeah. Just think about that. Forget all the medical science. Forget about, you know, trying to find an actual cure for dementia or blood flow diseases. We are going to just start, you know, we're going to give you an extra pomegranate. That's what it is, right? I have a suggestion here, and maybe you saw the short, but if she's so great, if she's really worthy of being the Surgeon General, why can't she be Trump's personal physician? You know, in my humble opinion, it could kill two birds with one stone. And actually, that would be a really, really good thing. All right, finally, we got Donald Trump announcing on Sunday night he's going to sign an executive order on Monday that with the aim of cutting drug prices. He posted on his social media site that I will be signing one of the most consequential executive orders in our country's history. Yeah. Prescription drug and pharmaceutical prices will be reduced almost immediately by 30 to 80%. Now remember, this is the guy who said prices on everything would go down on day one, that he would solve the Ukraine conflict in 24 hours. Remember that guy? Gas prices were going to go down? Yeah, right. He says, I will be instituting a most favored nations policy where the U.S. will pay the same price as the nation with the lowest price for that drug. Now, experts out there say it may lower prices, but could restrict the number of drugs that come into the United States. If you listen to this podcast and you're a rational person, Big Pharma does own what goes on in this country. Let's not unequivocate that. Okay, Big Pharma is effed, but they are nothing compared to what Donald Trump is, right? So at the end of the day, we're sitting here and we're going, why can't they lower the prices for the same price as Mexico or Salvador or Ghana? All right, it's the lobbyist. It is what it is. The lobbyists are controlling the price thing. Joe Biden in 2022 made the first real inroads in the pricing model when in the Inflation Reduction Act, he was able to every year negotiate the price of at least 10 drugs with Medicare. Medicare is the largest purchaser of drugs in the United States and actually in the world, right? So why can't they continue with that and expand upon that? Well, the reason they can't is because Donald Trump rescinded that on day one of his new term. January 20th, man. A day that will end up living in infamy. But the great thing about Trump is he's so goddamn stupid and he's so fucking corrupt that, we're going to have a lot of these milestones in the next 4 years. Buckle your seatbelts, right? Exactly. So the Inflation Reduction Act and the pricing that Joe Biden did in 2022 approximately saved Medicare $65 billion a year. Okay? I hope Donald Trump is going to get this through, but make no mistake, 85% of the Republicans in 2022 opposed the Biden initiative. Okay? With that said, it could be, he said, she said, I'm going to oppose it because you want it type thing. I get it. We're going to see where the Democrats come out here in this legislative cycle. But I do like to see anybody who is trying to lower the cost of drugs. But you have companies that own K Street, they own the legislative branch. Look, Big Pharma, most of the companies made anywhere between $40 and $60 billion profit last year. The argument from the Republicans, which I don't really goddamn buy, is that if you quote unquote put price controls on these drugs, you will lower innovation. I'm not sure I believe that, but it'll be interesting to see where the Republican House and Senate comes down on this. To me, they're going to have to do a 180. They're going to have to do a pirouette like John Travolta on the floor. I don't know. I hope they can lower cost, but I know somebody who, with the Inflation Reduction Act, his insulin was $6 a month. When Trump rescinded it, now it's $80. These are people on a fixed income. When you're talking about Medicare, Medicaid, these are people who are there because they really don't have any other options. They get locked into a budget. That's what it is. And like we see with Trump, with the plane, the rich are just getting richer and the poor are getting squeezed. And we're not worrying about planes here. We're worrying about keeping a roof over our goddamn head. That's all we're trying to do. We're not trying to conquer the world anymore. Those grandiose dreams of being Alexander the Great, those are done. We're just trying to figure a way to put food in our mouth, keep gas in our car, and keep a roof over our head. And you know what? Prices are going up. And all of a sudden now we're hearing, hey, little girls, you can't get any more dolls. You can only have 2. You can't have 30. Now he's telling us what we can get. I don't remember this in the whole election cycle in 2024. I guess we missed all this pain and suffering we were going to have to serve. And then he put some bullshit argument that, hey, we got the tentative framework of a deal with China. Bullshit you do. Bullshit. Really? We're going to negotiate every product that they make and we make and put it on a form and figure out tariffs on that? Yeah, we have a tentative agreement that you are losing your presidency. You are losing your poll numbers. You are losing this country. You are going to literally drive us into the Great Recession / depression because you're a goddamn idiot who doesn't know his head from his ass. All right. If you could, though, that's it for Scorched Earth today. If you could, hit that like and subscribe button. And remember, we're all in this together. I love you. We're all going to win because we're on the side of right, we're on the side of good, and we're fighting for democracy. We're fighting for our future, our kids' futures, and our kids' kids' futures. All right, that's it from Scorched Earth, and we'll see you soon.